Evening, it is 5:30 p.m. and I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will look for approval of our agenda. Namal?
I would like to approve the consent agenda with the human capital action.
So we have a motion to approve the agenda with the HC addendum.
Second.
And we have a motion from Namal and a second from Melissa. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
And that motion passes 7-0. We do not have anyone signed up for speaking tonight, and we also do not have a report from the FEA. So that moves us right to our admin report. And I believe we're starting with Dr. McKenna. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, thank you very much. Jeff, we're ready for you.
Okay, thank you, Madam President, Dr. Gross, trustees, cabinet. I get the honor of presenting our annual evaluation system that's based on the Marzano framework that you'll find in Memo 125. And what I did that you should have a copy of is took that fairly comprehensive document that Dr. Hansen and I kind of revamped this year because we've been doing this model since 2022, changed up, added some graphics, and then put a highlight together of like the top maybe 8 to 10 things that you'd want to glean from that report as board members. So you should have the highlights of the Marzano report in front of you, and I would stand for any questions.
He'll stand for question. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, I could walk through the highlights, but I didn't know if that's what you prefer or if you may have seen it and had any questions. I'm good with either way.
I would be open to sharing maybe your top 2 or 3 favorite things from the report.
Okay, I think that one of the things when you look through that report, what in addition, like that stand out in the top things that I've given you is, I think one of the most critical things that helps our teachers with the evaluation system is the emphasis on the pre-conference and the post-conference. So that there's this ability for the evaluator and the teacher to talk about what they should see in the classroom, if they're having any challenges, what evidence they should be looking for, and then the follow-up post-observation conference. And by having both of those, it really allows both the evaluator and the teacher to have a deep understanding of what they're going to see, and then of course what they saw after the last piece. And I think another thing that's really important is if you take a look at, I think it's the 3rd bullet, and it says task to target alignment. That's just really saying, is the instruction at the right level of rigor? Is it hands-on, minds-on instruction, right? Sometimes you walk into a classroom and you'll see active engagement, but if it's not at the right level of rigor, then it's really just kids doing things that aren't aligned with high quality tier 1 instruction. So for the teachers to be able to plan purposefully and to be able to work relentlessly, knowing that what they're going to teach has to align with the targets is super important. And then I think for the board that is important is the bullet about strategic plan alignment to that, and really making sure that our practitioners' practices, our instructional practices align with our FPS strategic plan and the results that the board wants to see that we have in our classroom. And you asked for 3, but I'll give you one more.
Okay.
I think the other thing, when you look at the report and you see that in the summary ratings, what you'll see when you go from 23-24 to 24-25 is you'll see a pretty significant jump from 23, 24 in total level 4 percentile, going from 14% getting that highest level to 24%. And I think you'll also see that just the overall number of teachers getting total level 3 and total of level 4. And a lot of that has to do with the very intentional targeted training that we've given principals. It's like anything, it takes time to understand a model, and the Marzano model is the gold standard for evaluation systems. But it does take time to understand it and really know what you're looking for. And I think if I were to ask a question like, why is there that jump when you look at the total increase in evaluation scores to a 4, it's really just because our evaluators have been trained better and understand the model better and have a lot more inter-rater reliability because of the intentionality that's been put forth in their training.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions or comments for Jeff? Go ahead, Greg.
So I think, like, looking at it, as far as those overall summary ratings, I definitely like seeing that, hey, there's more in level 3 and level 4 than the previous year. Though we had more slide into like the level 0, level 1 ranges, and I don't want to necessarily like say, oh, I'm concerned about that. I think your point about the fidelity of those doing the ratings is likely just being more accurate and identifying those who need help. But I'm wondering if you think that, and this would probably be a question for all of admin, whether or not these data points are something that would rise to the level of something that the board should be interested in as far as strategic planning go. Just noting that you had mentioned that like there's direct alignment with strategic planning baked into this.
Yeah, I could take a little crack at that. I think our next piece of the puzzle is to, this is a good data point, but can we see it in academic growth and academic achievement? And that's the piece that we now have to band together with this. It has to be coupled together. Otherwise, these scores could be greatly inflated. And what you'll see across the United States is a lot of teachers get really amazing scores, but their academic growth and their academic achievement may not necessarily be aligned to that. So the next step for us is to really see if these truly are coupled together. And did we have the academic growth, which is different than the academic achievement? Do we see, better quality instruction? And then you also want to see, are those teachers that, because we'll do this work too, are those teachers that didn't score well, was it the evaluation system, or is their data aligned with them just not doing that well in the classroom? So that's the piece, Greg, that I think that is our next, well, it's not, I think that's our next piece of the puzzle that we're navigating into now that we have this data in place.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we can move on now to, thank you very much, Dr. McKenna, for that presentation, and we can move on now to Memo 126, and I'll turn to Dr. Gross for this.
Great, thank you very much. Memo 126 is a culmination of a lot of work of a lot of people. Each year, we take about 1/4 of our administrative policies and review them for the alignment with state law, federal law, and then any additional updates that we need to do. This then helps us to be in compliant with EL 10, where we then share with the board all the policies that were either rescinded, added, or updated during the school year. The list that you see in front of you on that memo, what we tried to do is one, give you the names of all of those policies, but then a short synopsis of the major changes that you will see with each one of them. These have been posted on our website. And then the last thing I'd like to draw your attention to before we open for questions is on the bottom of the last page. You'll see there are a few policies that there were no changes. The policy was still good moving forward, and there were a few policies that we actually removed from the policy book. So with that, we open it up for questions, and cabinet members are here to answer.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments? Robin?
I just have a comment. AP 6334, the hazing policy has been completely rewritten, and that's for timeliness. I'm going to get nostalgic here. Arlette Preston and I wrote the first hazing policy in 2004, and so it was great. It's been interesting to watch the evolution of this, and thank you for completely rewriting it to make it more timely. You can thank us also for the meetings that are required for extracurricular activities, because that was part of that policy. So thank you for this, for your updates.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, great. Thank you so much for that, for the policy updates. I will now look for approval of our consent agenda. Robin?
I move approval of the consent agenda with the HC addendum.
I'll second.
So we have a motion from Robin and a second from Jason. Any conversation or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposition, same sign. And that motion passes 7-0. So we're moving right along to our business section. Memo 129 is going to come to us from Bill. So go ahead, take it away.
This is your Strategic Initiative SI5 Monitoring Report. It's a 31-page report that you have in your memo. How about we just go through a couple of highlights? Okay. Financial stewardship and accountability. Yes, the vast majority of our spending has gone towards strategic priorities. And as an institutional learning, when you have multiple people whose salaries all apply to multiple measures, you tend to double, triple, and quadruple count them. So you'll note a very, very high percentage in our alignment. We are super aligned. We also maintained our AA bond rating, and we received, again, as always, an unmodified audit. This is for basically result 2. We've got some key improvements in terms of efficiency. Working together with lots and lots of people, we reduced the overloads in semester 2, which was a significant financial savings. Big credit to Jared and his team. Jared's in the back room. They worked this year to review everything in their department, and they came up with about $1 million worth of savings for next year. We did our implemented data analytics platform. That was Cascade. Successful in terms of we all used the platform, and we're all very excited about no longer using the platform after this year. And our cybersecurity results were very good. We had 2 actual cybersecurity incidents that we had to respond to. One was Power School. Our average response time was well within the measure, so we didn't even have to test our plan. We actually used it. And our downtime was so low that it basically didn't register in the chart. For human capital, this would be result 3. 100% of teachers have assigned mentors, 98% of staff appraised for growth, met or exceeded hiring goals in classified, certified, and admin roles, and our compensation packages compare very favorably with other districts in the region. We had some challenges. One was we had a measure about response time on urgent and high level service tickets for facilities. It turns out everyone marks theirs as high or urgent. So we had to do some level setting this year, and it made our measure look lower than it really was. But James wanted to be as straightforward as possible in this report, so he didn't adjust. They internally adjusted to what really was urgent and priority, and we were much closer to the goal of the measure there. We also learned throughout this year that one thing we could do a lot better is we could make sure that we have parts on hand for parts that fail frequently. Sometimes our response time was limited by distribution challenges. Our professional development participation and recognition tracking needs some refinement. And we did have a facilities measure that was going to survey our staff about their buildings. Our vital survey focus this year needed to be more specific, and we had a shorter survey. So facilities didn't make the cut for that, but they pivoted very well. They did building audits. They talked with staff. They got they asked for feedback on completed tickets. And they have now created a dashboard that the buildings can use when talking with facilities that shows their overall status. And with that, if you have any questions, Jackie, Jeff, and I are available.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Robin?
To start the conversation, I would move that we accept the reasonable progress has been made in RSI 5 for the 2024-2025 academic year.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Robin and a second from Kristen. Any discussion or questions? Robin?
I'm interested in the cybersecurity test, simply because I went through this today with an insurance. So there are certain thresholds that need to be met for insurance purposes, as it's just not internally imposed. Is that fair?
Yes, and one of the first steps that we do in every incident is we contact our insurance provider to get insights from them right from the get-go.
Thank you.
Greg?
Sticking with that theme, I was surprised to see your slideshow did not omit what I think was probably one of the more impressive feats concerning cybersecurity with the simulated phishing attempts. I mean, honestly, that's a very dramatic drop, and I remember this was a point of concern in the past, and seeing the percentage drop that much was something that I took note of, and I wanted to congratulate you and your team on that.
Credit to Jared and his team. I have my own opinion on this, which is fantastic work, but the thing that they added this year was after you fail a certain number of times, you have to go through mandatory training. I think the threat of having to take training was more effective than the training itself.
And that's fine. That whatever it takes.
I'm assuming board members, are we included in this?
Yes.
Okay.
You
Sorry
all
about that.
are, and we know who you are.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay, Greg, one more.
So this is SI5 R2 S2 measure 5. The percent of staff members on an improvement plan will have determines that they have instructional deficiencies will be 100%. So if you're on the PDF, I think it's page 13. So the full measure is by the end of the school year, the percentage of staff members on improvement plans when the data determines that they have instructional deficiencies will be 100%. And I'm curious if on two parts. One is how are we determining that someone has an instructional deficiency? Is that what we were just talking about with the Marzano stuff. So there's, I think it was approximately like 90 instructors that had deficiencies. Is that the method we used?
I think we're going to have Jeff answer that one.
Yeah, so some of the evaluatory data does not really come back in time to, depending on when they're evaluated, to determine whether they're on an improvement plan or not. So that's part of it. The other part of it is when you go in and you see instruction that is not high quality instruction, or they're struggling with transition and you've tried to coach them and support them, that is when we want the first plan, and we call that the informal plan. And that's a collaboratively designed plan to provide support for them. Where we didn't hit the target and we've learned from it is sometimes some of the people that we evaluate may not be somebody that you evaluate till later on in the year. And a challenge with that is by the time you try to get them on a plan, you may have already had the evaluation system done, or the plan may be, since it's collaboratively done, it may not be fully designed yet. So our task right now is to take a look at these other 10% of the people that aren't on a support plan or on a formal improvement plan, and see how and prepare for next year on how we're going to support them and coach them and help develop them so that they are more successful in their professional practices or their instructional delivery. Greg, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I'm just a little concerned that, I mean, it's not a huge number of teachers who fall into this category. I don't know if the issue is more that we're waiting way too long into the year to actually evaluate a teacher and catch them early enough to get an improvement plan, which means they'd spent the entire year without getting an improvement plan, or I don't know. This was just the main concerning point of this entire report for me.
Yeah, and it's a good point to be concerned about. And I think where we will really get a better idea is the evaluation, and if they scored low on it, does the data that we're going to couple with it align with that, right? So maybe we're going to have some teachers that maybe had lower scores on Marzano, maybe. We don't know that yet because we haven't pulled all that together, but actually had good growth and achievement. And so sometimes the way that our system works, there's a net with a lot of holes in it. And until you really put both the evaluation system along with the growth and achievement system together, because they're separate, we won't really be able to catch all of the people that may have scored low, but maybe their kids did well. Usually not the case, but it could happen. And then maybe we had some people that were over evaluated or had a really good day, but their data doesn't align. So that's the piece where we're always going to miss some people until the very end. And we had some people this year that were doing really well until they weren't. And by that time, it was super late to get them on a plan that could be closed this year. And that's this number is we started a plan and we were able to close them this year. But it is a lesson learned that we're leveraging for next year.
Thank you, Jeff. Robin, did you have a comment?
From my personal experience on formal improvement plans, that does not mean that coaching is not happening until the improvement plan happens. And so I'm confident in this process, and we are just not like ignoring these teachers until they get on an improvement plan. And
Correct.
yeah. A lot of coaching goes into anything before you put them on a formal improvement plan, in my personal experience. Yes, correct? Okay, thank you.
I can also note that our goal is 100%, and we hit only 90, right? So like the math is like that's like less than 10 people.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And is 100% realistic.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready for the roll call? Go ahead, Anne Marie, when you're ready.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Our next memo is number 130, our preliminary budget approval, and Jackie is going to present this to us.
Thank you. You have before you our preliminary budget that we are requesting approval on. I want to stress it is very preliminary still at this point in time. And although we were successful in settling negotiations, the timing did not allow me to do all those updates as well. So just want you to know when it comes final, there will be quite a few changes you will see. We can start with the general fund. At this time, we do not include our grant funds because we don't have final allocations at this point. And the budget is comparing what we are currently operating under as a budget to what we anticipate our budget to be for next year in this document as well. So we can start with revenues. Property taxes, we have in this budget at the 3% with the cap. We do know that there will be some new growth that we will be able to probably recognize, but those numbers just aren't available yet. The remaining tax credits, all of those items we anticipate remaining fairly consistent, but there may also be some adjustments to those as we move forward. Under our local revenue, anticipating not a lot of changes. I do see, just looking over this budget right now, we probably can increase a little bit on our Medicaid reimbursement that we were getting. That has been a very successful change that we have made in the last couple of years to have someone dedicated to doing that for us. And under state revenue, the budget is in at the proposed, or the 2.5% increase in the per pupil payment that we receive from the state. I will point out on here, we received less than we anticipated in the current year. And so that's why you aren't really seeing that there will be a large difference. And as well, just with the additional offsets that happen in the formula, we're not growing currently. And so that kind of leaves us a little stagnant with our state aid. We do anticipate our transportation aid to increase. That also was a legislative change on how they are calculating that. So that is a positive for us. The only federal revenue included in this budget right now then is our reimbursement for our ROTC program and E-rate, which I believe did come before you probably in April. I'm thinking just a lot less money available for upgrades in the proposed budget for next year. And really no changes from fund transfers coming in to the general fund from our other funds. So I will pause there for questions with revenues.
Greg?
Yeah, I think probably the main thing that I want to point out is, I think, the state per pupil aid. We all know or heard that the legislature this biennium allocated a 2% and a 2% increase, 2.5, my apologies. Either way, yeah, our anticipated change to that is we're going to lose money. And I'm still, man, I've been really trying to come up with like a 30-second speech about what's going on with that. It has to do with the mill levy deduct, which is also not the most intuitive thing ever. But I think for now, the easiest way that I can help explain it is that is with historical data. So the previous biennium, the 23-25 biennium, we got a 4 and a 4 And our state per pupil aid from 23-24 school year to this current school year, we did not get a 4% increase to this line item. It was less than 1%. So when you hear 4 and a 4 or 2 and 2.5, that is so far not, that is not an increase to what the state actually allocates to us. So this number may seem surprising when you know the legislature increased that K-12 funding by 2.5%. But this is actually about what I would have expected given historical trends.
Thanks.
And let me know if that helped at all. I'm very much working on how to communicate this. So if that helped or not, let me know. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jackie at this point in the presentation? Okay,
Okay, we will move on to expenditures. This budget is prepared with a 1.5% increase for staff other than those under the negotiated agreement. The negotiated agreement pay is based on everyone getting a step. Just so you know where we're at with that. That will, of course, change because now we know what we will be paying out. And so those will be adjusted at the next reading of this budget. There are often a lot of ups and downs in our pay. Sometimes it's due to us realizing that we weren't coding something correctly. So there are fluctuations that do happen between our lines sometimes as well. So you do see a lot of kind of changes, but nothing overly significant in that. Benefits are presented. We have a 7% increase in our health plan that will be effective on January 1st of 2026. And a 5% increase in dental at that same time. And so those numbers are factored into this budget. And then the other expenses follow pay. So whatever pay goes up, the other expenditures will follow accordingly with that. For our purchase services, I think for the majority of the lines now below salary and benefits, you will notice that the proposed budget is a decrease over our current budget that we're operating on. I just want to give a shout out to departments. They really took the time to go through their budgets very, very carefully. And as even Bill mentioned, you know, IT finding savings by doing things a little differently. And so I just want to commend everybody because they really put a lot of thought into what they feel like they can operate on for the next year. You will notice some increases, and those are based on some contracted services, which will be our nursing services, which has been, contract has been approved, as well as our anticipated increases for our school resource officers. And then finally, as we get down a little further, our transportation contract as well, which will be before you shortly after this presentation. And I think I will probably stop with that, just because you will notice that most lines are a decrease over our current budget. And we'll stand for any questions on the expenditure side.
Robin.
If this is a question more than an observation, but it's really to continue to always chop off the bottom of our expenditures is painful. And at some point, I hope we shift to a more holistic approach with the zero-based budgeting. It's more enduring. And it might be more painful, but it's more enduring.
Yes, we will be looking at some different options for budgeting and approaching it a little differently in the next cycle of budgeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this point? Okay, keep on going.
All right, we will move on. Your next budget to review will be our building fund budget. And this as well has a anticipated 3% cap at this time on our property tax revenue coming into the fund. I should have noted with the general fund as well as this fund, no changes to what we intend to levy from a mill perspective as well. The building fund also includes, this was done before we had a planning committee meeting, so there will be changes to this as well. As we move forward, the current projects that you have approved already that really are just starting to kick up. And so you'll see that we have quite a bit of expenditures anticipated in our contracted maintenance. Those are for the, I won't say GMP, but I will, those multi-facility projects that we have looked at and approved. And then the other large out of this fund is really the fund transfer over to debt service to pay all the bonds that we have outstanding at this point in time. And that is a quick summary of the building budget. Are there any questions?
Questions or comments on this section? No? Okay, I think we're good.
All right, next fund will be your special assessments fund. This is a fund that we can levy what is necessary for us to pay our special assessments. And so we feel that we have enough available in our fund balance currently to levy no mills this year in this fund. And we feel that we will be just fine with that. In this past year, we paid off Ed Clap, which was our largest special. So these anticipated specials are just really the ones that are almost coming on the rolls from the city for just the general street projects and everything that is going on throughout town.
Go ahead, Robin.
I just thought of this. If we go down to 0, which I support, we know that the baseline for the upcoming years is based upon a 3% budget increase for across all funds. While I think it's the prudent thing to do to go back down to 0, I assume you put thought into that for future budgeting purposes.
We did, and I think I need clarification on if that applies to specials, because irregardless of the baseline being set, you can always levy what is necessary to pay your specials off.
Yes, okay. Still working my way through that presentation on 1176.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, other questions or comments? No? Okay.
Okay, next is our special levy fund. Again, 3% cap on property taxes, no change in the amount of mills levied. And this fund, what we do is transfer that money over to our building fund annually each year because we track all of the expenditures on the projects in that other fund. So it's really just a transfer out to the building fund.
Any questions? No? I think we're good.
All right, debt service. Debt service fund is just what it sounds like. It is the culmination of all the principal and interest that we will be paying in the next year for our outstanding debt. There is no balance carried in this fund as well. So just an in and out. Okay, and then lastly for you, we have our nutrition services fund. So Cindy has done great work in putting this budget together as well. Always a lot of changes sometimes with the federal government in our reimbursement, and as things have changed, it is nice to see that we're leveling back out again after COVID, and all the different types of funding sources are going back to what they have been historically. With that, anticipating a little bit more revenue from the state food program because that was adjusted slightly again this last legislative session. And the remaining revenue also does factor in for those families who are pay families, the increase that was approved previously by the board as well to our meal prices. Expenditures are based off the same premise as for salary and benefits as the general fund. So just that right now, that 1.5% for staff and increase for health, dental, and the remaining benefit lines will follow along with salary. And Cindy as well, I think you will notice we'll be working hard to keep expenditures below that line in check as much as we possibly can. Her main increase, if any, will be in the cost of her food and for milk and dairy products that come in for us. And lastly, there is a fund transfer out of nutrition services to the general fund. And that is just supportive of all the administrative work that is done by district office staff to support their programs. And any questions?
Greg?
So on the very last page, for the nutrition services, the bad debt, now that the school year is over, do we have an idea of what that ended up at?
That's a great question, and I think we were hovering just above 100,000. That will be, wait till the end of the year to kind of close that out. But I don't believe we were at the $200,000 mark that we were anticipating, which is good news.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to hear, because I know that for the past several years, that number has been growing at a concerning rate. And I'm hoping that this news means we're kind of turning the tide, so to speak, on that.
I think a little bit, and I shouldn't speak because Cindy's the expert, but I think with the change of direct certification for families on items, that has improved this, the response to this as well. I think it has been beneficial.
Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, some of those direct certifications might go away with some of the federal guidelines going down. So sorry to burst your bubble there, but yeah.
Melissa?
Yeah, I just had a question. Several months ago in planning, we had directed administration to review the transaction charge that was associated with credit card fees. And I was just wondering, is that captured as income, and like in what fund, and if it is at all? Because I didn't see anything that I thought might be described that way. So I was just wondering.
For the nutrition services fund, and it would be on the general fund as well. If you want to go to page 2 of nutrition services, it's really in line 344 financial services. And so it is an expense to us. It is not a revenue coming into
got
the
it. Okay.
district. And we did have the discussion about adjusting those rates just due to some other federal guidelines about ensuring that we are not tacking on rates to those who are on free or reduced. We at this time have just paused that conversation of making any changes.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? And that's the end of your report, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we can look for a motion now. Greg?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we provide preliminary approval of the general fund, building fund, special assessments fund, special levy fund, debt service fund, and nutrition services fund budgets.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Greg and a second from Namal. Any more discussion? No? Okay, Anne Marie, we are ready for a roll call.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Brooklyn,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, and that motion passes 7-0.
Follow-up comment, please.
Sure.
The board has approved a deficit budget. I want everybody to remember this when we complete our EL monitoring reports about the requirement for administration to present a balanced budget unless it's approved by the board. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that note. Next, we will move on to Memo 131, the transportation contract approval, and I'm turning to Bill for this one.
Okay, you were notified earlier by administration that we would be entering into direct negotiations with Valley Bus, as allowed in the current contract and North Dakota Century Code. That work is now complete, and we are asking the board to approve a 5-year extension to this contract. Highlights of the renewal are included in the memo, and we're available if you have any questions.
Okay, do we have a motion? Greg, sorry.
Yeah, I move that we approve the transportation contract between Fargo Public Schools and Valley Bus LLC effective July 1st, 2025.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Greg and a second from Jason. Any discussion? Greg?
Yeah, so real quick, I know that planning had directed administration to spend the next year really kind of focusing on finding efficiencies in our transportation. And there's a lot of fun contract language in here that I didn't follow all of it, but could you, for my peace of mind, confirm that that the structure of this contract does allow for us to be able to find efficiencies and savings even within the commitments that we're making for the next 5 years?
Yes, and that's actually something I'm working with Chris Pinkney now with our updated software version of the routing. There's a handy button that says optimize. And we can do that to every one of our routes and then review with Valley Bus how practical those recommended changes are, just right off the bat.
Great, thank you. Missy?
I just wanted to add that we meet monthly, Bob, I, and Bill, with transportation. I'm going to kind of give a shout out that the collaboration has increased twofolds by doing the monthly meetings, but some of our planning has really been around streamlining special ed transportation. And so some of the questions we're asking ourselves, so next year will be the first year that at the elementary, if you have 4 buses at your school, regular buses, we're asking that at least 2 paras ride the bus. Our goal is to have a para on every bus. K-8 is what we're working towards. But what that does is it gives us another transition point where we can have a child that might be on the edge of needing specialized transportation, have an adult support on the regular bus, which we think could help us streamline. We also are doing trainings with both Valley Bus staff and our staff around student needs, which we've also found might help us increase the number of kids who can ride on our regular routes. I just wanted to add some of the things that have been productive.
Thank you. That is really wonderful to hear. It sounds very collaborative and really especially trying to provide support for our vulnerable students. Greg?
Yeah, so I'm trying to connect some pieces here. So in our result monitoring report, one of the efficiencies that was identified was reducing communication with special needs families for the summer
We're
months. And I'm wondering,
changing how we were doing. What we were doing before was we had a handful of people making 5, 6, 7, 8 calls per family over the summer, constantly not getting responses. We moved everything to May. So the focus was that the schools were catching the families during that last month of school to make sure that they indicate whether or not they're going to continue with the special ed transportation or not. When the school year starts and we have staff back on hand and on the clock, we'll try to follow up with the remaining families. But one change that comes from that is if a family has been non-responsive and we don't have them scheduled on a bus, we will start the process of scheduling them when they finally indicate that they are traveling, where we've kind of bent over backwards in the past, assuming that they're going to ride and doing everything we can to cover them, even if they haven't responded. But it is a significant time savings, which turns into a significant amount of money.
Robin?
And then the IEP process in these considerations is also being refined?
Yes, Shelby, in fact, we are redoing, if you are receiving special education, this sounds really technical, but we have to decide how a student is dropped off. Some students need hand-to-hand drop-off, some need eye contact with an adult, but we would not be dropping off a student with no one there. And so we are coming up We tried a system called a waiver system where a parent could waive that. We've decided that that does not align with safety. And so we're going to try a different route with that as we go forward. But that also involves educating our teachers who are at the table with the parent. So Valley Bus came up with what to know if you are going to receive specialized transportation. I think now we have to train our IEP meetings that needs to be handed out when that is decided to make some clarifications. So it is changing our process. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we ready for the roll call?
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Brooklyn,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, so we are finished up with our business section and we are now moving on to our board reports. And I don't think I'm in charge of A.
I'll
That's
take
my
charge.
guess. Okay.
May I?
Sure.
Okay. I have the honor of giving you appreciation as serving for the board president from 2024 to 2025. Katie, on behalf of the entire Board of Education, thank you for your steadfast and dedicated leadership throughout this past year as our board president. Your term has been marked by a number of significant milestones and responsibilities, and we are grateful for the thoughtful guidance and professionalism you brought to each one. Among the many accomplishments during your presidency, a few stand out. In July, 3 new board members joined the board. We've all benefited from the fresh perspectives and voices that Jason, Kristen, and Allie have brought to our discussions and decisions. Following Dr. Gandhi's resignation in November, the board undertook the important task of selecting our next superintendent, which I would consider a Herculean effort and very important one. This extensive process was a major focus of the winter months, and we deeply appreciate your leadership throughout the search. Your efforts have helped guide the board with clarity and purpose, culminating in the appointment of Dr. Corey Steiner, who will officially assume the role on July 1. 2025 brought two major undertakings, the legislative session and the negotiations with the Fargo Education Association. Both of these required time, coordination, and collaboration. And finally, the board continued its forward-thinking work on the district's long-range facility plan through committee work and board sessions. Under your leadership, this critical planning effort has remained a priority, helping to position the districts and its future. And I am going to add in one bullet point that the appointments and subsequent board approval of committee membership and committee leadership is something that is probably one of the most difficult decisions a board president makes. And it seems like everything worked well together this year. And so thank you for your leadership in that. You can't make everybody happy all the time, but I think what came out of it was some really good results. So in all respects, you have led with focus, professionalism, and a deep commitment to public education. Katie, we recognize that the success of this board is contingent on the leadership, vision, and commitment of the president. So we sincerely thank you for your time, energy, and care you've devoted to this important role. On behalf of the Fargo, Board of Education, it is my privilege to present you with this plaque in recognition of your outstanding leadership. The plaque reads, Katie Christensen Meinier, for achievements on behalf of the students, employees, and citizens of the Fargo Public School District through outstanding leadership as president of the Fargo Board of Education 2024-2025.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you.
I know how this works.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I really, really appreciate this recognition. Okay. B, our committee liaison and correspondence reports. And Jason, I'm going to start with you.
I have nothing to report outside attending normal committee meetings.
Namal?
Let's see. I have,
Oh, your mic, please.
sorry.
I have attended, it was long, but actually HB 1176, it was like 4 hour and 30 minutes. That was too long. I was in and out. But overall, I think it was very helpful information to have. Then I attended planning committees. And then again, today, that was fun. If I'm missing something else, I bet I do sometimes. So forgive me.
Thank you, Namal. Robin?
Yes, thank you. Meeting one of the strategic plan at SEEK for one of their departments did occur. So I will keep you updated on that process as a member of SEEK. And then also, we had a SEEK Southeast Education Cooperative Board meeting in which it was Dr. Corey Steiner's last meeting. One special note is a lot of the board members wanted SEEK to be more involved legislatively. And so I asked some questions because we are very interested in the different Medicaid codes that can be used for our coding and billing. And I was delightfully surprised that this whole process is being tracked at the state level by other people that with nurses and Medicaid codes applications. There's an actual tracking site. So we don't have to track and prioritize. And in fact, one of the other board members who sits on a public health board said she had no idea. So somebody might be doing the work that we're already trying to seek to compile. So stay tuned. Hopefully I interpreted that correctly, Dr. Steiner. As Namal mentioned, I attended the 1176 property tax workshop. I did send some notes on that. I don't know if they're all correct, so Jackie and I are trying to interpret that all together. And in fact, there are still some different interpretations across different taxing entities, such as whether we need to actually submit a preliminary budget. You're smarter than I am, Jackie, but okay. So along the GAC line, I did send some approved legislative study directives that were approved by legislative management: sped teacher shortages, math and reading proficiency among disabled students, dual credit courses, and state funding. I'm interested in that. It wasn't listed under the K-12, but I thinking that is similar to the Minnesota PSEO model. So I think we want to learn more about that. SPED funding committee, there are a couple childcare ones that we had on our radar. And specifically, I want us to focus on in the interim for 1176, the Tax Reform and Relief Advisory Committee. We need somebody that's going to pay very close attention to that knows the details in the background, and then follow, so we can be involved and aware of what's happening, because that's going to segue right into the next session. And they know the bill isn't perfect, so they are looking to see how that is rolled out. Finally, I just thought it was of note on GAC-related items that the city of Fargo last night also requested that they have been hearing, they've been requested that they expand more legislator interactions, and at least on a quarterly basis, which sound familiar, everybody? And then they're also, I found of note, there was some different communication from some different commissioners that sit at the city commissioners that sit at the table, and they are hoping that they can designate a formal bill positioning process by a committee, for example. Sound familiar? So they don't have to wait for approvals at each board meeting or city council meeting. So I encourage you to watch that too. I believe that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Greg?
Yeah, on the 17th, I attended the board FEA negotiations session. I won't spoil it. I'll just say congratulations to Melissa and her team. And then earlier today, we had a planning committee meeting, our second one of the month, that we had to make sure that we met so that we could formalize our recommendation to the full board about the long-range facility plan actions. And you'll see that in a memo in our July board meeting. And I'll take this time to let everybody on planning know that we're canceling the July planning meeting because it's on July 3rd, and apparently everybody but myself and Dr. Steiner are gone.
Thank you, Greg. Melissa?
Yeah, I also attended the property tax training that NDSBA has, and it's online and archived, so you can go through it at your own pace. So which is what I did. And then, as Greg mentioned, negotiations has met 11 times with the FEA, and then on the 17th we came to an agreement. And I would like to go through the 11 substantive changes we made in the contract really quickly, just to give you a high-level overview about what's changing for the upcoming contract. And this is in no particular order. The first is the parental leave bank that was created by the board in 2023. The FEA proposed changes such that it would hopefully encourage more teachers to donate to the board and increase the number of days that are available to teachers that are wanting to take parental leave. And we worked through some language and approved that. The second change we've made is a notification of vacancies in the contract. Prior to, we had a somewhat complicated system of physically posting at a building, and now we are just streamlining that process. All postings for vacancies within the district are going to be posted online through the application system. Number three, this was a topic brought by the board. We previously had a notification of teaching assignment section that was also a little bit cumbersome. It required the administration to notify all content level teachers at the secondary level on the exact same day. And this was leading to some hurdles for principals who wanted to try to collaborate to fill positions that might fluctuate from year to year. So we've just taken out that language and left a date where we hope to have everybody have teaching assignments by. The fourth, was the substitution policy. This was sort of a leftover change from 2023. We had, in that contract, negotiated to create a policy where teachers can earn leave if they're subbing at their schools. And now we've just put a little bit more language into that. We say that we're maintaining a policy. We now have an administrative policy cite to that, and then language that mirrors cites to other administrative policies in the contract. Number five, workday. We had a somewhat unique situation at the elementary level where if a teacher missed professional time, there were certain carve-outs that were inconsistent depending on which level you taught at. And we got to a slightly closer mirroring of those. And so now what will happen is that professional time doesn't need to be made up if there's state assessments or required safety drills, which is, we had a lot of conversations with this. I know, and all of these might sound like simple changes, but they took hours of conversation. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions when we're done. Number six, using leave. There was a personal leave section in the contract where a teacher had to seek approval from the superintendent to get personal leave. We've changed that approval system to the building principal, who will have a better handle on that individual. And then we've also changed some of the district-wide requirements for how many people can be out on a certain day. So those were good changes that we were happy about. Number seven, in our compensation section, there was a 4-mile-long list of what deductions could possibly be taken from payroll, and we are just simplifying that language and saying any state or federal withholdings might be deducted from your paycheck. Number eight, our overload policy. Currently, there's a lot of disparities between the middle, high school, and elementary teachers about how you can earn an overload credit, and we've tried to streamline those. We wanted to make it more equitable. In addition to that, previously, you earned an overload based upon where you are in the salary matrix. And so we thought it's a little bit unfair if we have a first-year teacher that gets X amount of dollars for teaching an overload, whereas a veteran teacher would get substantially more. So now that overload calculation is tied to a cell on the matrix that everybody will be using. That will actually not go into effect this fall because we wanted to make sure that the teachers that signed up already for overloads were honoring what they expected. So that's going to be a fall of 2026 change. Number 9, mixed feelings about this, but as you've just did, you approved a deficit budget, and we were trying to see if there was ways we could save money. So we are reducing the special education stipend that we had approved to $6,000 a year to $3,000 a year. We're cutting it in half. We have heard from Jeff's team that this worked really well. We've heard from teachers it worked really well. It's not something we wanted to do, but it was something that we hoped we could maintain at a certain level. Unfortunately, not where we had wanted it. Number 10, in the last contract, we negotiated a section related to school counselors that cited to an external document that we did not have any control over about what counselors should and should not be doing during their day. So we eliminated that language just for a variety of reasons, but want to make sure that whatever we are contractually agreeing to, we more or less own. And then finally, salary. What we are doing is we're staying on the matrix that we created in 2023. Everybody is going to be able to have their steps honored. And if you're at the end of one of the lanes, meaning you don't have another step to take, you will be receiving a retention bonus in both the 25-26 year and the 26-27 year. And those retention bonuses are based on a percentage of your salary. They are ranging from $269 to $412 the first year, and then $539 to $826 the second year. We talked extensively about salary, which is not surprising at all. And at the end of the day, our current matrix is over budget. So we didn't have a lot to work with. And this was one way that we could give everybody that works in our district a pay raise. But we got to it kind of through a back door or a window. And then please just indulge me for a few moments. I just have to say a few thank yous because we had a phenomenal team. I'm just going to start with Missy and Bob. They were guiding us through some really, really difficult issues. You were always student focused, and it was just a blast to work with both of you. Jeff and everyone on Jeff's team. I often felt that Jeff was our North Star. He kind of reminded us where our focus needed to be. He also reminded us of district-wide implications that this contract would have, and it was always great to hear his perspective. Bill provided a lot of comedic relief, in addition to very thoughtful and pragmatic advice, for which we're very, very grateful. Tara, not surprisingly, has a huge lift in guiding us and counseling us through this contract, and she was wise and thoughtful and very caring at every step, and we could not have done this without her. And then Jackie, we obviously really couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so much for our endless questions, our endless requests, being so responsive and helpful. It was really, really seamless with you on our team. And then finally, the committee, I couldn't have asked for a better team. Everybody contributed so much. You work really, really hard. We ask a lot of you. There's at least 2 meetings a week, I think, for a good chunk of the spring. And you guys always brought 110%, so thank you. And I did want to just give a special shout out to Allie, she was our alternate, but she did a lot of work with salary proposals, and I know spent a lot of time working through this. And then finally, I just have to say that the FEA was truly lovely to work with. We had a team that asked inquisitive questions. I think they sharpened where we needed to be looking at. I think in some cases we got better proposals because of their questions, and they were professional and lovely throughout. So I can say we had a lot of fun, and I'm just really grateful for everybody that was a part of that. And I'm sure I forgot people, but I'm just very grateful for everyone that was a participant in that. And if you have any questions, let me know or email me about anything.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Kristen?
Following that.
Yeah.
Besides negotiations, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. So it's on to the president's report. And I don't really have anything to share other than I wanted to say thank you for a really great year. It was a very busy year. I know for those of us who were elected 2 years ago, it felt overwhelming to have a legislative session and a negotiation session at the same time. And then this year we decided to add in a new superintendent search. So this year we kind of lived in this building. I think there were times where it felt like we were here all the time. But I think we navigated the year incredibly well, always keeping our focus on our students and the adults that make this district happen every single day. We managed the heat and humidity of Atlanta quite well as a team too, and I'm deeply grateful for that. I do want to thank each of you that chaired a committee. I know that that's a little bit of extra lift. A special big thanks to Melissa tonight for getting us through negotiations. And I want to extend a really huge thank you to Bob for being our interim superintendent. So next week you get to sit back over there, or in a couple weeks, keeping an eye on Tara as we welcome Dr. Steiner up here with us. So thank you for a really great year. I deeply appreciate it. And our next meeting will be July 8th. It is 6:41 p.m. and this meeting is now adjourned.